everybody. Hey, Dana, Loretta, who all's here? I'm so excited. Okay, this is going to be, hi, Doreen. It's going to be a fun live tonight. I have pulled questions from all sorts of places. TikTok questions. I get asked stuff on YouTube. I get asked stuff on uh, live messages and patients too. So these are the things that I see all the time, and I have 20 of them. But your questions are more important than these questions. So if you guys have them, please put them in the chat. And I thought this would be fun because this will be nice because I won't feel so much like I'm chasing rabbits trying to answer your questions. And some of these questions might actually prompt some of the questions that you might have as well, or maybe even help you think of questions that you hadn't even thought of. So if you're new here, I'm Dr. Tammy. I help women feel their best and live longer, happier lives with hormone therapy. So that's what I'm all about. I try to dispel the myths and the fear. And I got one question today specifically that on this other board, I'm going to address that tonight. And it was basically one of our Hormone Bliss members reached out and said that their doctor was telling her that DHEA causes cancer and that she needs to stop. And I was just really blown away by that because I was like, what? I'm like, I could see if they said estrogen because that's the narrative, but it's like, and sometimes I think the dumb things that doctors say, where does that even come from? Just to say DHEA causes cancer. And I can get where the thought comes from because DHEA can convert into cancer, but it's absolutely crazy that they just like pull these things out. And of all the things they could have pulled out in this lady's bioidentical hormone cream, to call out DHEA was just kind of strange. So I've kind of opened that can of worms. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into DHEA because that's one of the questions. It's number 11 on here. Does DHEA cause cancer? And so that was one of our questions from there. So I'm going to jump into that while we're kind of waiting for people to come on too. And if you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are all things hormones and getting our health and happiness back after menopause, perimenopause, estrogen dominance, any issues that you might be having. That's what we do here. So, okay. So the lady said the actual question was, does DHEA cause cancer? I've heard mixed things, and I don't know if it's safe to take. My doctor thought that my doctor said he was concerned as well. Okay. So, a couple of different things. When it comes to hormones and cancer, it's always okay, what hormone? Because insulin and thyroid are hormones. And then, if you're going to say estrogen, what kind of estrogen? And if you want to go back to this study in 2002 that scared everybody and had them throwing away their HRT, it was actually the synthetic progesterones taken by mouth that caused the issues. Even at that, they still showed that women had less chance of dying of breast cancer if they did get breast cancer, and that the relative number of women who got breast cancer with the synthetic progestins was not what they reported. And so anyway, I have a whole video that you can go back and watch that on my feed, but it is absolutely criminal, the extrapolations that they came away with that got presented to the media. And so talk about a misinformation campaign. It was crazy. And I will say, I thought this was really interesting as I was doing my research today, that Pfizer in 2009 got hit with a single criminal lawsuit of $34 million by one person who had a really good lawyer, I guess, because she said that Premarin caused her breast cancer. So the basic part of the lawsuit was that they failed to tell people that there was a potential for this, because at that time, for whatever reason, they weren't putting it in their black box warning. But again, if all you hear me say is cancer and hormones, that's not what we're saying. We're saying synthetic hormones, and synthetic hormones are very different from what we call bioidentical. And you'll see when you go look on the internet, you'll see that that's just a marketing term, and it is absolutely not a marketing term. And so I want to do a really good presentation to you guys on Wednesday night, because I have a whole lot of imagery that I want to draw out for you and show you specifically how different they are. But for now, I just want to kind of go through some questions and give you guys a chance to ask questions as well. But anyway, the hand that got slapped in 2009 was basically because they weren't telling women that it was different if you take their synthetic stuff versus taking something bioidentical. So I find that very, very interesting that what they got in trouble for was basically not pointing out that their stuff is synthetic and it's made from petrochemical natural gas. And that in of itself does have its own carcinogenic properties. So we're talking about this chemical that's not even real, it's fake, that they were giving women. And that, yes, was causing problems. But even at that, it wasn't even what was actually reported in the media, and that women who got breast cancer actually had good survival rates and didn't actually die of it. So, long story, I've got all those videos. You can go watch those if you go to my main page. If you click on my image there at the top or wherever it shows up for you guys, it'll take you to my main page with all my videos, so you can go research that a little bit more. But I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at 7 o'clock talking about this stuff. So there's a ton of videos in there. And just little housekeeping. If you go to my link in bio, there are tons of free downloads, my free ebooks, and all the things. So yeah, so that's there. Okay, so we're talking about DHEA. Let's get back over to this. And DHEA is a hormone that's thought of as more a male hormone, but males and females have all the same hormones. What's interesting about DHEA is that it is actually, I'm going to get a different color just because it's fun. DHEA is actually a precursor to testosterone. So DHEA is made in several different places in the ovaries, the adrenals, and the visceral fat. And I'll come back to that and I'll tell you why that's important in just a second. But your body takes cholesterol, and that word sterol is steroid. So these are all steroid hormones. If you've ever heard somebody take steroids, or if you've ever heard of a steroid shot. And the reason that you hear of steroid shots is because there is a side pathway here in this chemical exchange that makes cortisol, which is your body's natural anti-inflammatory. So that's a steroid, like a steroid shot. That's what your body makes. And then cholesterol turns into a hormone called progesterone. And then progesterone turns into DHEA and a couple different types of androgens, and then to testosterone. So DHEA is an amazing hormone in its ability to convert into testosterone and convert back. So why am I talking about DHEA? Because it is wonderful to be able to give DHEA and not have the side effects of the end point of testosterone. So much less what we call masculinization, meaning mustache or beard or hair falling out or acne or feeling greasy skin. So it's all about balance. So if your body needs testosterone, absolutely, I'm a huge proponent of testosterone therapy. But for me, I do great with just DHEA. I feel wonderful. Every once in a while, I'll use a little testosterone, but DHEA works really, really well. And there are studies that show that even in men, taking DHEA as a hormone actually has some potential or more potential effects for libido. Of course, testosterone helps with production of sperm and all those things. But as far as interest in libido, DHEA can have a better effect. And sometimes if I have a male on testosterone, this is about women, not men, right? But if I have a male on testosterone still having some erectile dysfunction or something like that, I will recommend DHEA to them. Sierra, sorry I came into your life late. Cholesterol is correlated with cortisol. Yes, it is. So cholesterol is actually a steroid hormone. And a lot of people think that it's just a fatty globule in the artery ready to cause a heart attack. And that is not true at all. It is a hormone. And yes, it is a hormone that if it breaks down into its smaller molecular units, if you have irritated blood vessels, it can collect in there. But there's so much more to the story about what causes heart attacks and strokes and blockages in the arteries, because cholesterol is actually a hormone and it makes your progesterone and your DHEA and testosterone. And you know what I forgot to put on here was estrogen. So all of these can convert back and forth one way or the other. And so estrogen, oops, I forgot the N. So estrogen, and there's different kinds of estrogen. So I'm going to put estrogens there. Advice. So advice if you have high cholesterol. I'm not sure what the question is, Sarah. If you'll put that back through. But so yeah, the reason your cholesterol goes up after menopause, that's when they start checking, right? Although I have some patients who are in their 30s and 40s that the doctors have checked their cholesterol just because that's what they do, I guess. Cholesterol is correlated with cortisol. Yes, it absolutely is, because cortisol is this side pathway here. Okay, so so they just start checking cholesterol levels. So cholesterol is actually conversion hormone to all these other hormones. So if you don't have these other hormones after what we call ovarian failure, your body is going to start kicking up more cholesterol because your liver makes most of your cholesterol, over 70% of your cholesterol, and it's not even dietary. Less than 20 to 30% is even dietary fatty acids that you take in that actually are needed for the cholesterol molecule. So if you want to go back and watch my video on cholesterol, the 30 things that cholesterol does in your body, I think it was probably about 2 weeks ago. So you might have to scroll back a little bit in the videos to watch that one. Okay, so DHEA is sort of the amazing sort of wild card, and DHEA over the counter is available as pills, but I do not like oral hormones of any kind, because anytime a hormone goes through the digestive tract and through the liver, it can trigger clotting molecules, basically. So you don't want that, because that increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes and things like that. So if we're going to do bioidentical hormones, we have to leave the liver out of it, because the liver does not like to take hormones from the outside, whether they're bioidentical or they're synthetic. The liver really doesn't like it. So we just try to keep the liver out of the picture, because the liver makes, like I say, 70% or more of your cholesterol. Yes, your body just makes it. Your liver makes sugar too. So your liver's making this cholesterol to make these hormones. And so you need your cholesterol, right? Your cholesterol does a lot of different things, but cholesterol is super, super important to get balanced, because if you don't have these other hormones, your body's going to keep kicking out more and more cholesterol, and then they're going to try to stick you on cholesterol meds to block your cholesterol, and you can see how that could be a real problem. How do you take DHEA? Okay, so it does come over the counter, available in 25 to 50 milligrams. But here's the deal. What I was just saying is, any hormone that you take by mouth, whether it's bioidentical or not, can be an issue. So I don't recommend that you take oral DHEA. And it is the only hormone in oral form that's available over the counter, but I still don't recommend it. So I don't know if there are sublingual preparations, Vanessa, but I highly recommend topical creams, and that's what we do too. We have, my program is called Hormone Bliss. So if you want to go to our website, or you want to go to my link in bio, or my wonderful moderator fiance can put that in the chat, you can go there, and we start with testing. So we test and see what your levels are, and then we can get you on bioidentical topical DHEA, which is super safe. And DHEA, even in the oral form, I'm going to talk about some of the cancerous and things that get brought up. But anytime you take bioidentical hormones and a topical cream, like in my mind, it only has protective benefits. And I have gone through tons of research and studies. And what it comes down to is, yes, the cancer risk is real with synthetic hormones and hormones that you take by mouth. But when you take something topical, totally different ballgame. Also, you have to consider that if you are a 55 or 60-year-old female who's not had the protective effects of hormones for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, their risk of breast cancer goes up because they don't have the protective effect. Their risk of heart attacks and strokes goes up because they haven't had their estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So it's really a very skewed set of policies, if you will, about what we do and how we do it. And the waters are so muddied. So I'd like to wean off the testosterone pellets, been on for 3 years. So yeah, Vanessa, I highly recommend that you get tested. I would say with the pellets, you're probably going to want to let that come down just a little bit before you get tested. But if you haven't had a pellet for, I would say 8 to 12 weeks, if it's been that far out, this is a good time to get tested. And then we can get you on some bioidentical hormones and get you off that pellet. And we do testosterone as well, but we also do DHEA. So DHEA vitamins, yes, you can get them over the counter. You can go on Amazon or whatever and get them. But again, I don't recommend that you do oral DHEA. So check your levels, see where you're at, and let's do some bioidentical DHEA, right? Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. So when DHEA comes from the ovaries, it actually gets converted to all these different hormones in the liver. And then the adrenals make something called DHEAS or sulfate. And that S means that it's a storage form. So sometimes we'll check for DHEAS when we're doing blood levels for that. And animal fats makes quite a bit of DHEA as well, and that also gets converted into the liver. So you're kind of seeing this important picture of what the liver does. Let's see, my DHEA level was 911. Is that normal? That is pretty high DHEA level. I don't know if you're supplementing or not. Do you use Dutch tests? Yes, we do the Dutch test available. We start our screening test for our program is just the saliva test. So basically what happens is you order a test, free shipping, and we have a special for Valentine's going on. At checkout, if you use the code HET, you get $20 off, or you can use TikTok 20 as well and put that code TikTok 20 in. And so it's normally 120, it's 109 after you take the 20 off. So my brain is missing. My brain is missing sometimes too. I got choked. But yeah, so the Dutch test, what Sherry's talking about, is a dried urine test for hormones. And I find that it's interesting and fascinating. You can do cortisol levels and everything with it. You could do neurochemicals. It's melatonin. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with it. I find that for a lot of people, it's just super overwhelming when most people just really want to know what their hormones are and get on some bioidenticals. But I find that the Dutch test is most helpful when someone has had of breast cancer, personal history of breast cancer, because I think it's fascinating to know what your estrogen metabolites are, because some of them can be a little bit more stimulating than others, but it doesn't matter because getting on bioidentical estriol, which is the protective estrogen, like a fire blanket over estrone, which is the problematic hormone, which is what the synthetic hormone was in that WHI study that caused trouble. But yeah, so basically it's really easy to get that balanced without getting really complicated with the testing. And I missed that question because I was still talking. DHEA. Somebody asked about DHEA. I have factor 5. Is this something that can be taken? I keep reading about topics. Okay. So Stephanie's talking about factor 5, which is a protein that is in the liver that basically affects your ability to clot. and can increase your risk of strokes or heart attacks and things like that. So there are genetic factors for clotting. The clotting factors are made in your liver. We're just talking about these hormones are made and converted in your liver. So if you take an oral form of any of these, you digest it, you take it as a pill, it goes through the digestive tract. Your liver's function is to extract everything from your digestive tract, filter it out, and then put it back through so that you can poop it out, basically. So the liver filters all those toxins. So the liver also makes your clotting factors. When it does that, if it's trying to convert hormones and it's got other hormones coming through the pathway, and it's not really clogging it up, but I'm going to use that just for an analogy because it's kind of a visual that you can see. And then all of a sudden it's over here trying to make these clotting factors, and they've got something like a factor 5 Leiden or something like that. That's just a recipe for issues. We really want to do something topical like our hormone creams because it never goes to the liver. And so the liver's free to do its thing. The hormones can get into the tissues. And so that makes everything a lot cleaner. And even though there are some concerns about hormones systemically, avoiding the liver, that is where all those issues, especially with the clotting cascade, come in. How much is consultation and meds? Factor 5 and heterozygous. So the consultation and the hormones, basically what you do is you order a kit, and then the kit has the results. You get the results, and then we make a recommendation for the creams. So we have a couple different options, but we could talk once we get the test results. We can present that to you, and then then you can decide what you want to do with the creams or how you pay. So it's a little bit different. So, but it's super inexpensive. Just a very low investment for $109 to get a kit and see where your levels are and see what our recommendations would be for that. So yeah, it's 109. It's 129 normally, but if you use the code TikTok20, I'll write that here. TikTok20. If you put that code TikTok20 in there, it takes it down to 109. So yeah. And if you could get a doctor to check your hormones, which is super, super frustrating that they're like, oh, you don't need to check your hormones. I just had a patient today, lives in another town in Arkansas, but lives in another town. And so he couldn't get up to our clinic to get his labs checked. So I ordered labs at our little hospital, actually, which was the town I grew up in, my hometown. So I have a lot of patients. It's about 3-4 hours away, but I have a lot of patients who still come over from, and I worked in that town for a long time, but they still come over to see me. Well, he couldn't get over, so he asked my nurse if she could order labs over there. So we ordered them at the hospital, sent a requisition. And he called today and he said, is it normal to get a lab bill for $1,500? And I said, what? Are you kidding? And he said, yeah. I said, how much did your insurance pay of that? And he said, that was after the insurance. So I was like, oh my gosh. So insurance is such a joke. I mean, it's just such a joke. So if you want to get your hormones checked, a little over $100 is not bad at all. And I would tell you that you don't need your estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone checked. So it's ridiculous. It's kind of like, I think about the thyroid. If you didn't have a thyroid, you had your thyroid removed, maybe from cancer, surgery to remove it, a doctor would never say, oh, we don't need to check your thyroid. We'll just put you on the lowest dose possible if you're having symptoms. They would never do that. They would never just put you on, like, thyroid dose comes in anywhere from 5 to 308 milligrams, something like that. They would never just put you on 380 milligrams and not test you. So it makes absolutely no sense. So if a doctor, you can finally talk them into doing some HRT and they tell you you don't need your levels checked, that's just absolute madness to me. Just craziness. So anyway, my little rant there, you guys, my usual little tribe that comes on, you guys know my rant. It's just like, it's clown world. It's crazy. Okay. So we're still on DHEA. Some of the functions of DHEA it actually helps reduce fat. So fat reducing hormone, and it does that by increasing your sugar disposal and increases something called lipolysis, which is your fat actually breaking down. So there have been numerous studies, and the study that I was looking at today was a retrospective study of almost 30,000 studies. That is a lot of research. That is not just one study. That's not just 3 studies. That is a lot of studies on this. So, I mean, those are from all over the world too. So when you're looking at studies showing these things, it's not just like, oh, we think it helps with fat burning. And a lot of these studies actually showed that people who were overweight had lower DHEA levels. So fertility bliss, my fiance is so excited about this whole program. So he's doing that little plug. So yes, absolutely coming soon. Okay, so DHEA helps with mood. So if you're feeling sad or low or down, absolutely helps with that. And because DHEA actually can convert directly into testosterone, it can help with like muscle and energy and skin. And, it's like you don't want to go the other way, like oily skin, like a teenage boy, but you also don't want such dry skin that you're wrinkling. And so if it actually helps improve dry skin, thyroid can make your skin dry. So it kind of with that as well. So if you're having thyroid imbalance, DHEA could help with that as well. What a high natural DHEA mean? Sometimes I've seen people with really high DHEA levels and they have adrenal issues. So if it's super, super high, you might want to get your adrenals checked. And if it's, thank you, honey. If it's not super high, then it could just be that your body's converting. And I've seen with fatty liver as well that sometimes as we gain weight, because after menopause, we start having a lot of dysregulation of our hormones. And the more fat that actually gets dumped into the liver, the less you convert as well. So we see a lot of that with what we call fatty. And so we'll have a bunch of shifts and change as well with that. Then the thyroid does its conversion through the liver. So when you correct DHEA levels, the thyroid will often correct out too. Is estrogen and INTR? Jennifer, if you would ask that again, I'm not sure what INTR is. What would a high DHEA mean? And what number is super high? Oh, Interosa. Yeah. So it's really interesting, Jennifer. Interosa is an FDA-approved vaginal insert, which is DHEA, which can help with lubrication. And it does some testosterone conversion in that area. But it's so interesting. I can't even, like, I just go, sometimes I'm like, where does this stuff come that I have this one lady in our program whose doctor said today that her topical DHEA, which she's also taking estrogens and progesterone, not progestins. Oh my gosh, no. And he picks out the DHEA and says that causes cancer. So is it like he just saw one study and just said, oh my gosh, I'm going to just hang my whole hat on that one thing that I saw, which I don't even know where he got that from. Or maybe he heard it from somebody. I don't know. But maybe, and I feel like it's a waste of my to even try to figure out where these doctors are getting this information, or where they're like, they hear something and all of a sudden it's something else that doesn't even make sense. But because their egos are involved, then they can't like say, well, maybe it's not that, or let me take a few minutes and actually do some research and look that up. So a lot of times things like Interosa, which is DHEA, which is a vaginal insert, because it's a hormone, they go in their head that hormones cause cancer. Well, now they've got this thing. So there's some doctors in this camp who are saying estrogen causes cancer, which wasn't even true. The WHI study was actually the synthetic progestins that did it. But they're on this camp saying hormones cause cancer. They hear DHEA. Now they're like DHEA causes cancer. So there's some doctors who haven't done their research, haven't studied all the menopause stuff or the perimenopause stuff. Now they're like, okay, Introsa or DHEA, that causes cancer, whatever. And then on the other side, there's the ones saying, oh, you can do DHEA vaginally because it's not estrogen and it won't cause cancer. So it's just like madness. It's like, let's do some actual science. Let's look at some real, let's get this down pat. Let's talk about what actually caused the problem, which is the synthetic oral progestins. And let's just stop all this other madness and let's not just tell women, because Big Pharma has this new thing, Introsa, they give it a fancy name, and now it's like this thing. It's just freaking DHEA. I mean, it's like, it's nothing fancy. It's just they gave it a name and a new route of delivery. And yes, it's very powerful, but it's not going to help when you take it vaginally. It's not going to help your bones. It's not going to help you with brain fog. It's not going to help you with your heart. It's not going to help you with your hot flashes. It's not going to help you with your frozen shoulder. It's not going to help you with, there's just so many things. I mean, it might help with incontinence a little bit, or it might help with vaginal dryness. Absolutely. I have some patients who are on it that came to me on it, and they say that it helps. But it's not enough, and it's like, we're just going to throw these little crumbs at you because this will keep you quiet for a while. It's just, that's what it feels like to me. I could be wrong. Could I bring recent labs and be seen by your practice? So what we do in our program is we do the saliva testing so that we can dose the creams, and we do that through a system. So it's a super inexpensive way to get started, is just to kind of go through our system. So we have coaches who actually do the recommendations with the bioidentical creams. And so you don't have to go through a doctor to get bioidenticals. A lot of people think that, you have to go to a doctor and you have to get blood work. And a lot of times when they do labs, they're not even doing the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And so blood work isn't really that helpful when we're doing creams as well. We want to know what's in the tissues. So unless they've done a saliva test, then they probably don't really know what's in the tissues, because what's in the blood is either bound or unbound. So, but yeah, so go to Hormone Bliss and order a test kit, and we can get you going on that, and DHEA cream. So, yeah, they get that. Okay, cool. So back to DHEA. It actually increases something called apoptosis. That's a mouthful. Apoptosis just means that when there is a cell in your body that has gotten lost and confused away from the flock, and it is starting to turn into a tumor cell because they start dividing like crazy. And then it's like, hey, you know what? I think it'd be fun to be a cancer cell. Apoptosis is cell suicide. So when a cell is acting bad and it needs to go away, there's something called apoptosis, which is your body's way of creating destruction within a cell that's not supposed to be doing what it's doing. DHEA actually does that. It helps with apoptosis. It helps encourage the cells that are trying to be cancerous into, that sounds so bad, into taking their own lives. But that's what every cell in our body does eventually. It's just that cancer cells, it does it to it sooner. It's just kind of creepy, actually. It kind of just convinces it to, like, you're done here. Will that fix my brain? Yes, there's so much with, I don't even think I have it on here about increasing mood is on here, but absolutely, because DHEA is a very stimulatory hormone as far as mood goes. So absolutely, with brain fog and things like that. Love my brain and life before. I'm so sorry, Jennifer. Yes, yes. Hormones are everything. Women are suffering. And so that is my mission. And that's why I do what I do. My goal, I always say before I leave this planet, is to have 50% of women to know what their options are and to get on bioidenticals and feel better, because brain fog is huge and depression is huge and all the things. My mood, anxiety, etc. is so much better since starting the cream. Yay, Connie! I love it. I'm so excited. Yes, Connie's doing our program, and I just love it when people are feeling good. And I always say, you just have to be patient that we get it right. It's not always right out of the gate, and I love it when it is, Connie. That's so wonderful. But sometimes it takes us a little while to get the adjustments. And what I love to do is the combo creams where it has the estrogen, progesterone, and DHEA in it. And, we can add testosterone to that, but sometimes we have to separate those out. I personally am one of those people that I have to have my hormones separated out because I'm just this delicate flower, I guess you would say. But a lot of people do just fine with the combo. So, it just kind of takes a little time to get the right balance sometimes, but sometimes get it right. Most of the time we get it right out of the gate. Not on hormones. Okay. The apoptosis, which is the cell death, and it helps with surveillance and NK cells, which are natural killer cells, which actually go and kill cancer cells. So how could something that actually increases natural killer cells and apoptosis cause cancer, right? So, I mean, it's crazy. I can't even. Not on testosterone. Okay. I'm not on testosterone. Okay. Yeah. And some people are, they do DHEA and testosterone. So if you're not on testosterone, you don't have to be if you take DHEA. So, okay. So this is interesting. Any of those, there is one study that I found, and I promise you guys, whenever I want to present something to you, I am what I call black hat, meaning I will go and try to find the one needle in the haystack that is the problem that is getting attention. Jennifer said, cause my hair to thin. Yeah, it can. Any kind of testosterone, anything like that, in the wrong balance between the estrogen and progesterone, because the wrong balance of estrogen can cause hair changes. Estrogen helps lubricate the hair follicle, if you will. It helps stimulate the blood vessels and the nerves. And I have a video on that too. If you go back in my feed, you can watch that as well. But so if you don't have estrogen stimulating the hair follicles, and now you have testosterone that's converting throughout the fat in the skin underneath the hair follicles, and you get too much of that and you're inducing too much oil into the hair follicle and not enough estrogen to stimulate the nerves and the blood vessels. So now you have too much testosterone, not enough estrogen, and then not enough progesterone to balance it out, you absolutely can lose hair. It's all about balance. Minus love from perimenopause. How do I raise it? Bioidentical creams. So you go to Hormone Bliss and order a test kit, and you help us. We help you raise it through topical creams. So yeah, and again, we were just talking about the hormone kits a minute ago. If you have any questions about ordering a saliva kit, just go to my link in bio and you can order it there, or you can go to Hormone Bliss, which is the website. And basically, it's free shipping, comes to your house, and you just put your saliva in the little tube. You fill out the test requisition, which is all the information about 30 plus symptoms, everything from chemical sensitivities, frozen shoulder. I just always like to say that because people are always like, what? Frozen shoulder? That's a menopause thing. But everything from hair changes to weight gain, sugar cravings, aches and pains, foggy thinking, brain fog, hot flashes, night sweats, all the things. After my test, I'm already, yeah. So I'm not sure, already on. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so you can go to the link in bio and order a test kit, and then we can help you get those levels up with topical bioidentical hormones. Okay. So anyway, I was just saying, I go studying and looking for that one study that I can go, and I'll literally Google blah, 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 and I'll try to find it. Estrogen patch and progesterone. Oh, okay, good. So it might not be the right balance. So I don't know what your levels are or what they're doing, but if those are unbalanced, you actually can have hair thinning. Okay, so I found the one article, and DHEA did cause cancer. And in the article, they took mice, gave the mice 10,000 milligrams a day. The oral form is 25 to 50 milligrams if you were to get that GNC or something. So 25 to 50 milligrams is what you get over the counter. They gave these mice 10,000 milligrams, a little bitty mouse, 10,000 milligrams orally by mouth for 18 months. That's over a year. So they gave these little bitty mice I don't even know how you get 10,000 milligrams a day into a little mouse. I mean, I can't even imagine that. It's like a cartoon or something. I don't know how they like concentrated that much. I don't know if they were injecting. I didn't get into the study that much. I stopped at the conclusion when I saw that it did induce cancer in rats, 10,000 milligrams for 18 months. Okay. So whoever that doctor is out there, God bless him, who told one of our members that DHEA is going to cause cancer, I'll give it to him. There's one study. Whatever. There was a study from, I do want to point this out, several, many, but when you hear National Cancer Institute, that's kind of one of those things that you go, oh, they're the cancer people. They know, right? National Cancer Institute. Their thing, right? So in 2001, they did a study on DHEA and they showed that it decreased cancer by 30%. All cancers by 30%. And in breast cancer, the multiplier effect, meaning how long a breast cancer takes to multiply, and like it starts with one cell and then it's a bunch of cells and then it's more cells, by 50%. So that is nuts. I didn't make this up. 2001, the National Cancer Institute said it. So anyway, and there's a lot of those too. Jennifer, I think she asked, is it via email? So we do everything basically online. Order the test kit. We make your recommendations. So it's beautiful. So you don't need to go to a doctor. If you want to come see me in Arkansas, you can make an appointment, but you don't have to. And that's the beauty of the truth of all this, is you're being held hostage by going to a doctor, begging them to do your blood work, and then begging them for a prescription, and then dealing with doctors who don't know what they're doing, who don't know this stuff, right? And so that's the beauty of what we do, is I use my almost 25 years of doing this to write the protocols. And I am a medical doctor, but you don't need to come see me to get your testing done and get on bioidentical hormones. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so I know 7:43. We're running out of time. I got all stuck on DHEA for a minute, but I'm going to go through a few of these questions. I'm 44 and still having periods, but I have symptoms like brain fog, anxiety, and night sweats. Could I already be in perimenopause, and would BHRT help? Absolutely. I'm going to draw a little picture here real quick. What is perimenopause? I get this question all the time. If we were to draw a graph and put birth to 100, and this is hormones on this axis, I'm getting real scribbly here. This is 50, which is about the age of menopause for most people. And our hormones start climbing here, and then they kind of do this over time, our fertile years, and maybe a baby, maybe another baby. And then perimenopause, it gets really crazy, and then it just drops off. We run out of eggs in our ovaries, our basket is dry, and then we flatline. From the age of 50, approximately, to 100, we are left to deal without any hormones. So this lady wanted to know, I'm 44, so she's about here, and still having periods, brain fog, anxiety, all the things. Would BHRT help? Absolutely, because she's already starting to drop here. So just like here, it's just that we need less here to help her. So absolutely. Super simple. Yes. Okay. I've heard that once I'm 60, I'm too old for hormones. Is that true? Can BHRT still help me at any age? Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, oh, brown eyes, my period stopped at 45. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can happen anytime. So, but usually it kind of starts downward spiraling before it absolutely, it drops off. But the age range is very variable. Um, so she's asking about over 60. There was that study done in 2002 that took women 60 to 65, put them on synthetic hormones. They had no protective benefit from the age of 50 to 65, and they started to see some problems with synthetic oral progestins. And so now they 60 and older, you don't need it. But all of that comes from synthetic birth control that caused so many problems and does cause cancer. Petrochemical molecule, basically, it absolutely does cause cancer. And I did a whole talk on that. You guys can go back and watch that, but it absolutely does. So that's where you can't take it longer than 2 years. Oral birth control causes cancer, not in everybody, but I mean, we know that there are carcinogens just in the petrochemical. It's natural gas. I mean, it's like that's the Rockefellers, like, just they were going to do something with their extra natural gas, I guess. I don't know. And they took those molecules and started making synthetic hormones. I mean, it's just, we know that PCBs in plastic water bottles cause, endocrine disruption and cancer. Why would we think that taking these synthetic hormones would be okay? And why would you give a 9-year-old girl synthetic hormones and that be okay? But when a woman over the age of 50 wants bioidentical hormones, now they cause cancer. They're dangerous. Oh no, you can't do that. Oh, you're too old for that. It's like, it's nuts. I have a woman who is, yes, true. I have a woman who is 72, I think it was. She's been my patient, like, I guess almost 3 months now. She's the age of 52. She went through menopause at 52. She's been begging to test her hormones and get her on hormones for over 20 years. And when she came to me, which was this 2 or 3 months ago, I can't remember, I was like, she's like, I was told I'm too old and 72. And I was like, you are not too old. Got her on hormones. She said her follow up, first time in 20 years that I've slept through the night and I'm not having hot flashes. She was having every single day. Nicole, I've been taking birth control for 8 years. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I'm not going to backtrack on that. I feel bad, but I can't backtrack on that. They do have carcinogenic properties. And it's just so sad to me that doctors have no problem with that. They'll, I have never heard, you guys can put in the chat if you want. I've never heard a doctor tell a, fertile years the hormones cause breast cancer. If you've ever heard it, I don't know. I was not taught that in my residency or in med school, that we ever told women, that we would ever tell a girl or a woman in, fertile years taking birth control. We were never taught to say that aggressively. Certainly not as aggressively as they menopause. I mean, where you literally have to beg a doctor for hormones. I mean, if you had to beg a doctor for birth control, can you imagine? And then yet, all the time, all day long. I think I saw a study one time that over 98% of women have been on some form of birth control in their life. So it's like, yeah, it's nuts. And then you're on birth control like for 8 years or more. And then you have this higher risk of cancer. And then you want to go on natural bioidenticals here. And then, yeah, maybe you do get breast cancer. Or maybe you were not had the protective effect of bioidentical hormones at some point and you get cancer. Nobody's ever going to go back and say, that was the 8 years that you took synthetic petrochemicals. Nobody's going to say that. They're just going to say you can't have any relief, even though you're flatlined, because hormones cause cancer. That's just crazy. Okay. I know I'm running out of time. Um, I had a hysterectomy and was told I don't need hormones since I don't have a uterus, but could BHRT still benefit me? Do I need progesterone? Absolutely. There is a lot of talk out there which is not accurate that if you don't have a uterus, progesterone. The study that was done that actually showed that if you had too much estrogen, that you could get uterine cancer unopposed. So that's why the balance is so much important. So important. So when you take estrogen, you have to take progesterone with it to balance it out. You have to. There are so many studies to support that. So any doctor who puts on estrogen alone is doing a huge disservice. And I always say it's like saying you have shoes, you don't need socks. Progesterone balances out estrogen and keeps it in check. It is all about balance. Okay. Um, my doctor says my hormone levels are normal for my age, but I still feel terrible. Could it help me if my labs look okay? So sometimes we see that when we do the saliva testing, we'll actually see that they are normal. But if a woman's telling you and she's filled out this sheet showing that she has 29 of the 30 symptoms, then everybody's different. So you don't treat numbers, you treat people. And so if you are borderline low, or if there's from, let's just guess something 200 to, 100, some random test, and you're at 201 and you feel bad, that's quote normal, but do you feel normal? I always say with guys in testosterone, that's the testosterone range. Maybe that's why I picked that. I always say, would you feel better with $201 in the bank or $800 in the bank? Well, that's kind of a no brainer, right? Um, I've been on antidepressants for years, but I recently learned that my mood issues could be related to menopause. Can BHRT help me get off antidepressants? Absolutely. I never tell anybody to stop any medications because that's between you and your psychiatrist or your primary care doctor. But absolutely, because when no hormones, like we just talked about, DHEA, it helps regulate mood. So when you have no hormones, you start to dry up in every way, including your brain, your serotonin, your dopamine, your gabapentin, all the things. So if you get that restored and it's overnight, but you do feel better overnight usually. But restoring those neurochemicals makes all the difference in the world. So I see women get off antidepressants, get off medications, get off blood pressure medications. I mean, it's nuts. Feel great system. Okay. I've I was put on birth control pills to help with my perimenopause symptoms, but I don't feel any better. How is BHRT different from birth control, and is it a better option? Absolutely, because it is all natural. We use the cream route so that it bypasses the liver, and do not let anybody put you on synthetic oral birth control for your perimenopause symptoms. That is going to put you into menopause because what it does is synthetic progestins stop your ovulation. So if you're not ovulating, you're not making these hormones from your ovary. It is putting you into a menopause state, which is how it keeps you from getting pregnant. So that is madness to try to put you on something that's going to create a menopause type situation in your body. And how's that going to make you feel better? Now, it might stop when it stops ovulation. Sometimes it can stop the bleeding. So sometimes there have been a handful of times, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, that I've actually used synthetic hormones in the form of birth control to stop a period so that we can reset the uterine lining so that we can do this. But sometimes when people have really heavy bleeding and they're like up for any, even a hysterectomy, then it's like, okay, we'll do this for a cycle, maybe two, and then we're going to switch you over once we get the bleeding under control, because it's basically makes me think of when I was a resident in the hospital and we were, running codes and stuff like that. There's medication when somebody's in an irregular heart rhythm, and you give it to them and it literally stops their heart. It is the scariest 2 seconds of your life. You think 2 seconds is fast, but when you're waiting on someone, you just gave them medicine and stopped their heart, and you're literally with bated breath waiting for that beep, 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 and then your heart beats back. It's like, holy crap, okay, they're okay. It's it's kind of that crazy situation where I'm like bated breath a month or two, stopping your period, and then it's like, oh, okay, now I can go back. So, yeah, I know that's kind of a crazy story, and I guess it doesn't really equate that way. But I use birth control as scared as that when I think about it. Quite as scary as that. And I do understand family planning because I do have young women that need family planning. They need contraception. They are not ready to start a family. And so I'm never like, oh, you have to stop birth control. But there are safer routes, right? Bad side effects. Now I'm trying estrogen cream. Okay, good, good. Um, so I have some young girls that we use synthetic estrogen and progestin in a patch, which is topical. At least it's avoiding the liver. So it's still systemic, but at least it's avoiding the liver. I really try to talk women into getting a copper IUD, not the hormone, not the synthetic one, but that is a really good way to go for if it's going to be at least 3 to 5 years before you're wanting to have a family, or if you're done. Highly recommend a copper IUD. And that way, even if you are having irregular periods and stuff, we can use topical progesterone. There's so many options that we have at that. Um, and it's really interesting is because synthetic birth control in the oral form, sort of a menopausal state, it's really interesting because I see women's libido go down, which is kind of interesting because it's like, well, if the girl doesn't feel like being intimate with her partner because she's just not interested. Oh, hang on, sorry. It's telling me our time is almost up. Oh, shoot, hang on. They're telling me I gotta go. I don't want to go. I'm enjoying this. But yeah, so it totally suppresses their testosterone. And so it's like young women just feel like crap. You need testosterone and DHEA for your mood. And then now they're like in this menopausal state, and most of the time they feel terrible. Now you don't have the bleeding irregularity because you're not ovulating anymore, but it doesn't seem like it's that great of a solution on many, many different levels. Okay, guys, I didn't even get through half of my questions. So I'm going to talk about the difference between synthetic and natural hormones, and I'm going to show you some interesting molecule structures and how they are different. And I think that's really cool to see for this nerdy girl here. And I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at 7 o'clock. My moderator just put that in. So Wednesday night at 7, we're going to do, and then I'll go through some more of these questions because I didn't get through all the questions just yet. So I just want to leave you with, if you're having problems with your hormones and you want to get some help, go to the link in bio and you can order a ticket and use the code TikTok20, and it takes $20 off the $129 price. And you can go to hormonebliss.com and you can order a kit there. And then then we look at your levels and we make recommendations to get you on hormone creams and get you feeling better, because that's the name of the game. Women are suffering, and it's not just about what you feel or what you can see on the outside, but it's what's happening to your bones and your blood vessels and your heart and all the things that you can't see and the risk that you have. And I have a family history of dementia and Alzheimer's. I don't want to go that way. My mom was in her early 50s when it started. I'm 55. My grandmother was in her 60s when it started. I do not want to go that way. So this is so important for me. I saw my mom break her hip 3 times, one hip twice. I don't want that for me. My mom never recovered from that time. So I want a better life for myself, and I want a better life for you guys too. Yay, Nicole. I'm so glad you popped up too. So, yeah, it's so important. So, whether you're in your 20s, 40s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it is, consider getting tested, considering letting us help you with your hormone balance. And I'm all about education. I'm all about your power is in your information. So, the more you know, the more empowered you're going to be, and the better life's going to be, and the better you're going to feel. So, I love you all very, very. And if you're free Wednesday night, I will see you then at 7. And if you have any questions, feel free to direct message me in the inbox. And if you are on the other streaming platforms on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can also direct message me there. And I'm sorry for the people on the other platforms. TikTok's sort of my main frame here, and everybody kind of ignored over there, but you guys can DM me as well. And again, I love you, and I'll see you Wednesday.